A bombshell has just been dropped by the Overwatch 2 game director about balance in Season 6 or Overwatch 2 Invasion. Mercy is getting nerfed. Lifeweaver is seeing a pretty substantial buff. Cassidy is also being looked at. We've got changes to Bastion, to Kiriko, and loads of other stuff. So let's get stuck into this. This is the director's take hero balance preview for Overwatch 2 Invasion. There is a lot coming to the game in Overwatch 2 Invasion. We've talked about the new story missions, the event mission, our new game mode flashpoint, and the new hero progression system, as well as our hero mastery missions. And we'll be talking about our newest support hero soon. On top of these new additions, there are also a lot of changes coming to the current heroes next season. Nearly half of our heroes are getting balance changes. I won't go over every change in the season here, they'll all be in the patch notes, but I'll go over some of the larger ones. First up, Aaron actually sort of looks back at the launch of Lifeweaver and how the launch really failed, and this is what he says. There was a lesson in the Lifeweaver release where our newest hero was interesting, but just wasn't strong enough on release. We don't want to repeat that. For Overwatch 2 Invasion, our aim is to have our newest hero be exciting and impactful on day one. It is not our intent to release a hero that's way overpowered, but we'd prefer that people play her because she brings value, not just because she's new. We will be watching her very closely, listening to player feedback, and will make early changes if necessary. Okay, so the hero is going to be strong on launch. I think this was a given because of how bad Lifeweaver was. But what's interesting is the actual executive producer of Overwatch 2, Jared Noose, who is in charge of the entire franchise now. He said this in an interview with Emong. He said, I think there's something really gross about games that put a new hero in the game and it's super OP for 3 months to drive people to buy it. We don't want to go that route and release heroes that are overpowered. It's interesting, isn't it? Because Aaron is obviously trying to say, hey, we're not going to make a super OP hero, but we want to make a hero that is just strong enough that people, maybe if you play other heroes that are performing very well, so I don't know, maybe like a Baptiste or an Anna or whatever support, and you're just like, hey, I can just drop straight into this support and carry on playing. Hopefully that's what they're going for, and they're not going for the route of like absolutely ridiculously OP. Now, if the hero is OP, this quote from Jared Noose will forever be used against him, and it is going to be interesting. Anyway, I digress. Next up, there is a change coming to the way armor works, and this is what Aaron says. We're making a change to the way we calculate damage against armor. Armor damage reduction is now additive with other sources of damage reduction and respects the current cap of 50%. It used to be multiplicative. I can't even say this word. Multiplicative. There we go. Basically, multiplied by, with damage reduction from abilities, creating situations where certain heroes were much more difficult to damage than intended since they were bypassing the damage reduction cap. So they were basically going over 50%. This shouldn't be a big change and will most likely affect Ramatra and Orisa. Okay, now he gets into some specific balance changes that are coming to the heroes, and this is the real spicy stuff. So to begin with, it is Cassidy's magnetic grenade, but Cassidy also gets a buff as well. So check this out. One of the themes for balance changes this season is reacting to some of our recent tuning tweaks. We made several changes to Cassidy's magnetic grenade this season, and going forward, we'll be refining it in to address some of the extremes of the ability. Its maximum range will shorten quite a bit with a 1.5 second max travel time. Cassidy will also get a health buff and some changes to his damage fall off. Now, Cassidy getting a health buff is that's always super dangerous because Cassidy, when he starts getting extra health, he can just get very hard to kill. But his grenade is the main focus here, and that's the thing that everyone has been going crazy about. So now you won't be able to just yeet this for, you couldn't yeet it entirely across a map, but you could throw it pretty far. Now it'll only travel for 1.5 seconds, and then it'll just explode, I presume. So yeah, these are big changes to Cassidy. Again, I'm not really too sure about the HP change. We'll have to wait and see how that works out. And in terms of the damage fall off stuff, we don't know what the figures are for that, but we know that's going to get looked at. Torbjourn, so they're happy with the power of Torbjourn's turrets following this season's change, but we'd like to increase the damage potential of his primary fire, which will be getting a faster fire rate. We're also speeding up his weapon swap so that he's more effective at keeping his turret up. So this could be a devastating buff to Torb, because Torb, I think, is quite, like, criminally underrated. He's extremely good, even right now with his primary fire. So if they increase the fire rate of that, that increases the functional DPS of the ability, which is already really good when it hits you, especially with a headshot. So we could be going into an era here of Torb being an absolute monster. So if you're a Torb main, I'd be really jazzed about this, because I think this is going to be pretty good. Soldier 76. So Aaron says 76 got quite a buff in Season 5, which I think is probably an understatement of the century. We don't think he's oppressive, but there's room to lower his damage output. We'll be reducing the damage on his Helix rocket and slightly increasing the cost of his ultimate. I think this is interesting, right, guys, because I don't think they even needed to increase Helix rocket to begin with. They could have just increased the damage on his primary fire and left it at that. Instead, as we know, they increased his primary fire damage, they increased his healing output, and they increased the damage off Helix rocket. So now it's almost like, well, you can keep the increased healing, but what we're going to do is slightly nerf the Helix rocket down, and we're going to increase the cost of your ultimate, which is all interesting. But as you guys will see, there is a Mercy nerf here, which will, I think, play into a lot of these nerfs, especially with Soldier 76 and other hit scan heroes like Ashe and like Torbjourn, who do really benefit from the blue beam. We'll get onto that in a second, though. He then goes to talk about Orisa and says, continuing to make changes to Orisa, her Fortify ability will now grant 125 bonus health, and the start of her damage fall-off will be slightly extended. We wanted to see how much the mid-season change would bring her up before the armor damage reduction hit, and think she needs a bit more to compensate. So again, this is interesting stuff, and this does lean into the whole thing with the change of the way armor's going to work. So yeah, now it will give you 125 bonus health. So these are the details for what is pretty much a very light rework of Lifeweaver's abilities. There's no new abilities here, but it's pretty much wholesale change for a bunch of his abilities. And this is what Aaron says. While we're releasing a new support in Invasion, we're also making quite a few changes to our current support heroes. We're continuing to focus on Lifeweaver. We think he's in a much better state now than at his launch, but would like to focus on two aspects of his kit: giving his ult more impact and giving Lifeweaver himself more survivability. Part of Tree of Life's healing will now be converted into overhealth up to a maximum of 100 health per player. He will also get added survivability by converting some of his health to shields and upping the amount of healing done by rejuvenating dash. So this could be pretty big for Lifeweaver, but will it fix the Lifeweaver sort of inherent issues that the hero has got? I'm not sure it will. But the thing with Lifeweaver is, which is always kind of like, it's a bit of a paradox. Like, Lifeweaver's healing output is massive. Like, this is one of the supports you can play and pump out incredible amounts of healing. But it's almost like it doesn't matter in a lot of cases. And his ultimate has never been very good. And his other abilities never really get used. And his damage isn't really that great. And he's got a massive hitbox, although Blizzard have sort of changed that over the months since his launch, made it a little bit smaller. But yeah, I still think the hero is going to have issues, but at least they're still trying to sort of salvage the disaster of Lifeweaver, who has to be one of probably the worst hero launches the game has ever seen, in terms of just the hero being very, just not great to play. They're also going to make some changes to Kiriko, and Aaron says this: we're also making changes to Kiriko's protection Suzu. It will now heal slightly less, but when it cleanses a negative effect, it will do an additional burst of healing. The slight knockback on Suzu is also being removed. We'd like this ability to feel more pointed. We don't want players to feel like they have to hold it, and would like to reward them for more for using it situationally. So yeah, no knockback now, but it gets a burst heal instead if it removes a negative effect, which I think is really cool. Okay, you've been waiting for it. Let's get into it, because this is the Mercy change, and it's Blue Beam they're looking at. And Aaron says this: we are planning tweaks for several of our other support heroes, but the last one I'll go over here is the reduction in Mercy's damage boost. It won't be a lot. We'll be reducing it from 30% to 25%. At this value, we feel the ability will still feel effective while giving us room to rein in certain damage spikes. We are aware this is a contentious topic and are doing our best to be receptive to the various community opinions. Now, Mercy What happens with Mercy is there is this concept. It's not really a concept, but it's a, it's called breakpoints, right? So Mercy can alter the breakpoint of a hero with Blue Beam, and she's one of the only heroes that can do this. Another hero that can do this is Zen with Discord Orb. When that's on a target, suddenly all the breakpoints go crazy. Now, what this means is you get damage boosted by Mercy. If you are playing Soldier 76, it was a 30% straight increased damage. Now it's going to be 25. What this will do is it will interact with the breakpoints when you're attacking certain heroes, when you're doing certain types of damage. It won't be as much. Now, the question here is, Aaron says that they think this is still going to feel really powerful for the person being damage boosted, which they should feel powerful because, literally a support is giving up their healing potential to damage boost the DPS, but they don't want it to feel too ridiculously OP. Now, this I honestly believe is an issue that does affect more of the higher ranks in the game. Now, I've been on record saying this. I have not been hardcore grinding Overwatch for a while. I think I'm going to start doing it again with Season 6, because I think we, might have some good changes coming to the game. Especially Flashpoint. I really want to get stuck into that. But, higher ranks, if you have got a Mercy pocket, all of a sudden, it can be very oppressive. You see this in lower ranks as well. You'll see Pharaoh Mercy, Pharmacy. It's a combo as old as the game. And if the enemy team can't actually shoot the Pharaoh can do what they like because they're suddenly firing out souped up rockets. And also they've got a Mercy flying around with them who is healing them as well if they require it. So that's always been a thing in the game. Other heroes, or I guess more of the scenarios I'm thinking of is if you had an Ashe versus an Ashe, but the one Ashe has got a Mercy and the other Ashe doesn't, then that Ashe with the Mercy will win because they've got a heal and they've also got a massive damage increase. That's probably still going to be the case, and I think this is going to be something which it's a very complex issue because there's no easy fix for this. You can't remove this ability from Mercy because what would you give her? Because it is such a powerful ability. What do you give her as a trade-off if you ever remove it? But yeah, I do think a lot of this is blown out of proportion by players. I mean, there's a lot of memes going around. I've been memeing on it myself, and it is quite funny to just meme on it. But because you get the Mercy Mafia coming after you. But yeah, I think a lot of this does generally affect the higher ranks. But yeah, I do think there are cases in the lower ranks where, Blue Beam is powerful. So the devs are definitely looking at this. Aaron then goes on to say that Sombra has a few small changes coming next season, but in Season 7, her larger rework, which will come with a new ability, will go live. So whatever you guys think that is, let me know in the comments below. Ramattra and Doomfist blocks will now reduce stuck damage, and they're also making changes to Bastion's kit to help him feel more fluid and increase the potential for his tactical grenade. So there you go, everybody. Those are some of the changes, or the main changes, according to Aaron, that are coming to the game in terms of balance in Overwatch 2 Invasion. I think there's some really big stuff here. Let me know, guys, in the comments below what you're actually looking forward to in terms of Invasion. I'm looking forward to it. I really am looking forward to it. It's been a while since I've actually, I don't want to sound getting hyped, but I'm looking forward to checking it all out, and getting stuck into it. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. You can follow me on everything, which is @Stylosa, and I will catch you lovely lot on the next video. See you soon.